I am now going to introduce onto the stage the creative force behind this marvelous piece of work. In no particular order, I have Danielle Deadwyler, John David Washington, Malcom Washington, and Mr. Denzel Washington. Cool. And I literally just walked away without my questions. Thank you. Cheers. Okay, guys, so you all know how this works. I'm going to ask you the very dull questions that you've been asked 100 times before. If you could pretend that they're incredibly interesting. In fact, if you could prefix your answer with, my goodness, Steve, that's incredibly fascinating, that would be good. And then I will hand it over to the audience.
Goodness, Steve, that's incredible. Oh, I'm sorry, not yet.
You need to learn how to take a cue. And then I'm going to hand it over to you guys who will ask the more insightful and interesting questions. Okay, so the first one is for you, Denzel. So what I have read is that you have been tasked, or you've tasked yourself with putting these movies, these plays, into movies. Can you tell me why you felt that was important?
Costanza, August Widow, came to me in, I think it was 2014. I was doing Raisin in the Sun, and she came to me and said the estate would like to ask if we could put these in your hands to make movies. And I said, absolutely, you got the right guy, and that has become not only my passion, but my purpose professionally, to do my best. We're going slowly, so I don't know if I'll be here to get to see all 10 of them, because we're going every 2 or 3. I've done the math.
You will.
Yeah. But that's it. Yes, that's how.
Okay, cool. One other question. I'm going to ask all of you questions, but since I've got you there, most of us know you as this amazing megastar actor. In fact, I was at a screening the other day of that other little film.
The small one, yeah.
That tiny little thing. Do you? Which do you prefer? Do you prefer to produce or?
As a human being, I love seeing others do well. That's just my nature, you know. I just helped when the kids in my boxing gym buy a car. He needed a car, so I bought him a car, a used car. But I just like seeing people do well. So my producing partner, Todd Black, convinced me that he thought I could direct, which I'm learning that how little I know, you know. Thanks.
Oh, I don't know.
but that's more of my passion going forward, maybe after 5 years, more behind the camera and getting these films made.
Cool, thank you. Malcom, okay. So now this is your feature debut, yes?
Yes.
Yes. So you have this extraordinary piece of work. It's rich characters. It's a very revered piece of work. You've got Dad as your boss. I believe a sister is a boss also.
That's right.
You've got Big Bro here as the lead.
Yes.
You've got this whole Rolls Royce of a cast. I believe also that Mum and sister other sister were also in the movie.
Yes, my mom's here too.
Right, yes.
The real producer.
Yeah.
So, first question, on that first day on set, how is that with all of these people?
You work so hard for a moment, for an opportunity to get to live out your dream, and then someday it shows up, and you're like, oh my goodness, now what do I do? And I was so nervous that first day, and it felt so important, everything that we were doing, and we got all these people here, and everybody was together and gave themselves to it already. And I was a little nervous and tense, but the first take of the first day, Samuel L. Jackson, who's in the movie, just starts ad-libbing, and he does this thing that's so funny, and he kind of just broke the tension of all of it. It was like, oh yeah, we're just doing the thing that we love to do, and we love to be around each other, and this is fun. It's not precious. It's fun. We can break it. And in that moment, it was like, and we were off to the races from there.
Cool. Another question for you also is, when did you know that you were going to be involved? I mean, is this a play that you have lived with for years, or did you go and see Big Bro in the play and go, oh, I could do that? Or, I mean, how did that whole process come about?
So it started for me in COVID. I had never read it until in COVID, during lockdowns, we all moved back to my parents' house. And it was like being a kid again. Like we're in high school. I have a twin sister. We're like arguing over the remote. It like turned into that. My mom's cooking breakfast every day, and we were just together again. And it was kind of a strange thing to be back in your childhood bedroom, but have the perspective of being a man back in your roots. You know, so it was kind of reconnecting with yourself in that way. And I was reconnecting with my ancestors too. I was digitizing our family photos and thinking about our family tree and considering my life in the context of those that came before me. And John David was preparing to do the play, actually. And I read part of his process is writing his monologues, and I was reading pieces of his writing, which was the piano lesson. I was like, whoa, this is really something. My mom encouraged me to read it. She's like, she gave me the book. She talked to you. you passed down the book to me.
Let me just say this real quick, and then you keep going. So, Mom came to me and said, I don't know how long it was. She said, you know, Malcolm's got a take on this. Maybe you should listen to him. I said, oh, okay. So Malcolm put together. He made like is it a short film? He made like a sizzle,
like
whatever. Yeah, he made a little film, and all this stack of ideas. And I was like, me and Todd Black, my producing partner, was like, damn, you want to make the movie? And he's like, no, Dad, I want to see if I can. Well, how'd you say it? You go ahead. What'd you say?
I wanted to write it, and I was like, let me put it on paper and see if everybody rallies around this idea. If the ideas in this are strong enough to move forward with the movie, with both John David, my dad and Todd, John David and Samuel L. Jackson, because the take that my ideas of the movie were kind of bold. It was to push the play beyond the limits of a play and into this realm of cinema, which is a medium I love and revere, and bring genre into it, bring all these other elements into it. So I put it on paper and then brought it to them.
Okay. John David. So there you are. You've just done this incredibly successful Broadway run. Did you know at that point, first of all, that little brother was going to be directing the movie? Or how did that come about for you?
Yeah, it was it was at the end of the run, and I had found out that Malcolm decided that he wanted his first feature was going to be this. I was like, what? Heck yeah, let's go. I'll raise my hand. Let's go. I'm in. Mm-hmm. So I was excited to be able to collaborate with him, and I didn't see him like as working with my brother. This is just a director and artist that I really wanted to collaborate with. He has great ideas, and his take on the script and his lookbook and the references of Pittsburgh and the time period. I mean, some people call it opening it up, the play, and that's what he was doing. He was taking August's words and gave it a visual language that was unique, and it was very exciting to be a part of.
I mean, it is incredibly cinematic, actually. Well done. Another question for you, John David. So talking about Boy Willie, who if I think Bernice is the heart of the piece, I think of John David, Boy Willie as the motor. What was it in that role that resonated with you? And did anything change between the stage and the screen in your portrayal?
Well, it's interesting you use the word motor because that was a lot of the, I guess, the direction from LaTanya Jackson, who directed us in the play, the first African-American woman, I believe, to direct an August Wilson play on Broadway.
Wow.
So, yeah, incredible. And she kept saying, the engine, the engine, the engine, the engine. But in the film, I had a different responsibility, I think, because of the quiet moments, the in-between moments, because some of the dialogue is cut and infused in a visual sense. Now, how his behavior is going to change. I wanted to lead with that, his behavior. Intentions were somewhat the same from the play to the film. Mm-hmm. Background story was a little different because of what the screenplay said. Like it puts Boy Willie as a kid at the scene of the theft before he sees his father for the last time. That wasn't there before. So some of my background stuff changed because of his ideas, which was great. So my responsibilities changed. So I wanted to make sure I honored the character with the interiority and work inside out.
Okay. Danielle.
Yes. I did good, didn't I?
So John David and the majority of the cast, I believe, had been in the Broadway production.
Yes, excepting Corey,
Right.
myself, yeah.
So for you coming into this venture with what was basically, I guess, a family that had already got their own kind of shorthand, their own language, how was that for you? And tell me also, what was it about Bernice that appealed to you?
It's extremely exciting to come into the fold of something that's already running, an engine that's full, or not totally full. You are coming to add on to it. I feel like I had to over-prepare. I feel like Corey did the same thing. I prepared to do a play in that you want to know the entirety of the thing so that you can be flexible and malleable and dexterous and just move it with the way that the thing is happening. And how did I develop Bernice essentially?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's pretty brilliant. In speaking with him beforehand, we met on Zoom, and I just knew that I had an artistic twin. We had a lot of things in common, a lot of arts interests that just paralleled. And so when we began to speak about the arc of Bernice and thinking about the spiritual journey that she goes on and moving from a traditional aspect of life to a non-traditional, and moving from Black American Christianity to hybridizing that with West African spiritualities, and going from this standard practice of life to something much more intuitive and raw. That's what was driving how we were getting to who she was. Additionally, it's just my work in life, my personal art practice has been centered around what it means to live life as a Black Southern woman, and platforming that and the challenges that comes with, specifically looking at what it means to labor so overwhelmingly, and being mother, and being family leader, and being one who works outside of the home, one who is trying to navigate spiritual leadership. Like, all of those things are weighing down on the backs of Black matriarchy. And then Bernice is in the crux of trying to be summoned to buck that in a way from the ancestral voices that are moving, her to touch the piano, which is an altar, a portal to become who you are authentically.
I guess question, I'm quite shallow, so I'm going to give you
Yes.
a shallow question. So when I watched it, and there's a laugh is true. There is a scene, the scene with Bernice and Lyman, which I think is just exquisite. At the end of that scene, I suddenly thought, is that kiss good news for Avery?
What do you mean?
Well, okay, so because when we meet Bernice, she's very closed off, or at least she appears to be, and that's in fact what Avery says. I feel like she's almost still grieving her.
She indubitably is.
Right.
Yes.
So he says, you've got to open up, you can't, whatever.
Yes.
The way that you play that scene, because it's not just that because I've seen this film a lot, it's not just that he sniffs you or whatever it is, it's that you succumb to that kiss. And then as you walk up the stairs, you give him that look. And I suddenly thought, oh, not that she's going to be with him, but the floodgates are open.
The floodgates are open.
Right.
But for whom, right?
Right.
That's the exciting part.
Yeah.
And so that was the joy in doing that scene with Malcolm, right? Like, we're just navigating the space and figuring it out. And we happen to end up over here in front of the mirror. And the beauty of intimacy is, what is the partnership that is happening with who is in the intimate space, but also the intimacy of finding, the intimacy of the selves, right? There is some bodies that are trying to come out of you, that is trying to come out of Bernice, and sometimes the intimacy with another enables you to open up to yourself. And so I specifically remember Malcolm being like, are you looking in the mirror? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, okay. And so that was critical. Like, it's not just about wanting to yield to someone else. It's yielding to who you are. Intimacy is about finding out about the other as much as you find out about yourself.
Cool.
And that,
Shallow question, deep answer.
But
Sorry.
just to piggyback on that, I think that I remember that moment while we were shooting and seeing that unlocked that whole scene to me. That unlocked so much of Bernice's journey. And you can't get to the third act without going through that moment right there where she sees herself and submits to herself in that way. And we milk it, you know. We sit in that when she's staring at herself. I think it's so meaningful.
That's beautiful. This is a question, I'm sort of aiming it at you, Denzel, but it's actually for all of you.
Well, I'm not as smart as these three. Yes is the answer.
Okay, good. Moving on. No, it's in an ideal world, given current events back home, what would you like people to take from this movie?
I always have the same answer. It depends upon what they bring to it.
Oh, okay.
It's not for me to decide what someone should take from a film. I don't think, right? How dare me tell you what you should think? Maybe you had a bad day. Maybe you had a great day. Maybe you argued with your brother or your sister, or whatever. Or you saw, I don't know. So that's the way I look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think that a big part of our objective was to turn the film into a mirror, and so that you could reflect back on you and you see yourself, your own stories, your family's stories, and confront those parts of yourself so that you can move forward.
Okay. No take.
Well, the reason I love what I do, being able to tell stories, and a lot of times I can find myself in characters or lose myself in them when I attended a cinema, when I saw something that I really connected to. So yeah, I agree with what they said, but also there's a hope that it can inject hope or inject some identity in some people that are looking for it through this medium. Like if I can connect with somebody that saw something that I was a part of, and they can actually see themselves. They can hear August Wilson's words and they can connect to it. You don't have to be from Pittsburgh. You can just be living, and in your everyday life, you see that and you connect to the magic of cinema. Then I gotta say, selfishly, that's something that I really hope for, and that I hope people, respond to the way I do, the reason I do it today.
That's the right.
It's not a telling of what to take away, but I know that there is always survival in black folks' ways. We always find a way to come back to each other. We always find a way to move through conflict. We always find a way to resist. We always find a way to love, and that is something that we will practice in perpetuity.
Okay.
I got you.
So I'm just going to ask one more question of the panel, and then we'll open it up to you guys. Again, this is for all or any of you, basically. Now that you haven't actually stepped back from the film because you're still promoting it, but you're no longer on set, you're no longer thinking about it 24 hours a day, I presume. When you look at the two basic points of view about legacy, Bernice and Boy Willie, who's correct?
Yeah.
We will not do that today. No, we're not going to do that today because we're together.
Correct.
There is no correct, is there? No, I don't think there is a correct.
Because I just heard a voice out there go, Bernice.
Knew it.
Well, see, you just said I can't tell you who.
No, but I wondered what you felt, because